What do you think are some of the best cars to own for the average person out there?
Honestly, I think that your Model Y is a really, really excellent all-around car.
Just don't pay the amount I paid for it.
If Jack buys it, just do the opposite.
Yeah.
Inverse Jack.
Sell it to me.
Those Model Ys are excellent all-around cars, which is proven by the fact that they're everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They fit everybody. Like, you got a family, Model Y. You're just you, Model Y. You got a dog, you're a couple. Like, it does a lot of stuff. And on that same level, like the RAV4s and the CX5s, the gasoline kind of versions of that, they're a little bit more down market, but cars like that, I recommend these. People ask me every day, like my friends or people from my past, what should I get? This is my budget, and the answer is always like, get a CRV, get a RAV4, get a Model Y. Like, just like I never try to push people into weird. All those cars are tremendously competent. When I was a kid, there were some trash cars and there were some good cars, and now basically all the cars are good. And so people be like, I'm deciding between a CRV, a RAV4, and a CX5. And I'm like, which salesman is nicer? Which one, like, which color do you like better? Like, those cars are all very competent, but they're all pretty similar, even for a normal person. But the good news is they're all pretty good.
What car do you think has the least amount of maintenance? So someone that wants to just buy a car and never have to like do anything to it, aside from like electric vehicles, obviously.
I would say electric vehicles, except that some don't. Like, some EVs, I mean, you hear about problems Tesla has, you hear about problems that Rivian has. An EV should be the answer, but I don't think that all EVs necessarily are being produced right. Not all EVs are with the same like level of production care that maybe some long tested gas cars are. But otherwise, the answer is, I mean, get a cheap Japanese. The answer is still Corolla hybrid, Prius, cars like that. Those are the cars you can own. You won't lose much of depreciation. You won't lose much in fuel costs. I often think about this. If I was just somebody who didn't care about cars, and what a great burden that would be lifted off of me. Like, I drive around and I'm like, I see Priuses and I'm like, I wish I could just have that. Be chill.
You couldn't be happy with the new Prius?
I like the new Prius.
I love the new Prius.
Oh, it's cool as hell. But like, I can't drive. I got to drive special cars. I can't drive a Prius. Like, but it would be so freeing to just have a Prius and like get 55 miles per gallon, and it's a pretty nice looking car, and it's actually fairly quick, and it's got good tech, and just sit in there and listen to my Spotify driving around a Prius. That would be a dream.
And
then you sell it 10 years later and you lose like $4,000.
What's holding you back from that?
I'd like to drive special cars. Plus, the Sequoia I need to off-road. So Prius doesn't off-road. That's a real thing. And my Mercedes station wagon, you gotta have a Mercedes station wagon. People don't have Mercedes station wagons out there in the world.
Now, one thing I've always been curious about, why aren't they making more EV convertibles? Why is this not as common?
I think, it's funny you say that, because we just had an EV convertible here, the MG
yeah.
Cyberster, which is not sold here in the United States, but it was excellent.
Yeah.
I think that the general thinking is enthusiasts are not EV buyers. And so if you're going to go to the trouble of developing an EV, which is already, especially in the United States, kind of a niche product, you want it to hit the broadest segment of the niche that you can, which is why Model Y, Mach-E, all the new EVs that come out are compact mid-size crossovers, because that's what people are buying. There's not a lot of gas-powered convertibles anymore, to be honest. There's probably only 7 or 8 gas.
Why is that?
Convertibles are over. People don't want it.
Really?
There was a time when you could get convertibles of like the Chevy Cavalier had a convertible, like the Toyota Camry had a convertible. It's over. People want SUVs. They just want SUVs. That's the hot car of this era, of this generation.
I thought everyone liked convertibles. But maybe that's through like the 90s. It's just like the wind in your hair and the
I think the
free. I don't know.
I totally agree. But and I wish I could get my Ford GTs in a convertible. I'd give it.
Oh, what is it? The GTX
one.
Yeah.
But even then, like, I wish they had done a factory. I wish there had been 1,000 of them that you could go get one. But it's just over. SUVs have won. They beat everybody. They beat out.
It's so funny. I'm not a fan of SUVs.
What are you driving day to day?
A Tesla Model 3.
You don't want a Model Y like him? He's sitting up higher than you. He's got your car, but he's sitting up. He's like that.
It's also the safest car.
Safest car, better range. No, I just had my car. I'm so just like, I don't like the payments. I don't like the idea.
He's ready to sell his car. He just wants to sell it and make a little bit of a profit, even though he bought it 6 years ago. That's
but the Model 3 is kind of the perfect car. It's like the Prius of. It's like the perfect car for that. I released a video about the new Model 3, which just came out, the updated one. I titled it and talked heavily about it in the video. The Model 3 is the best automotive appliance, and people were so angry. But that's what it is, and it's great at that. Like
Yeah.
it is fantastic. It drives for you. It doesn't cost much to own. It's just a simple, easy thing. But it's not something I think people get passionate about mostly. But people got angry. I guess some people are passionate about it. That's not how I look at it.
For me, I just need A to B. Like for a while, I was
and
driving
that's what it's
a
perfect.
2006 Volvo that I paid $1,000 for, and that was my driver for the first like 2 years in Vegas. Just A to B, just something simple
And that's
cheap.
what the Model 3 is great at that. Prius is great at that, etc. And that's what those cars are. That's what they do. They do great. I mean, there's those companies that do Vegas to LA, and they all have Teslas. It's super simple to own. They do huge miles. They don't have huge fuel bills. The Model X's can get a lot of people in them.
So, is there any other car out there that's losing a ton of value right now?
I mean, EVs are certainly the top of the peak when I think about cars that are losing a lot of value. Any big luxury cars always are losing a lot of value. Mercedes S-Classes and BMW 7 Series and cars like that. Those are just always kind of deeply, deeply depreciating. But people go in knowing that.
Yeah. What about the Cybertruck? I saw you sold the gold one recently.
Yeah, for like 104 or something like that.
102.
Cybertrucks are definitely losing from where they were. But the demand is the sales are actually more robust than I expected, considering they don't seem to be hard to come by new. I expected resale actually to drop further than it has already. I thought they'd be a 60, 70 by now, but they're not. But they're dropping for sure.
Yeah.
If you want to buy something like the Mercedes S-Class or something like that, like a super nice Bentley, how many years, like when is the perfect time to buy it where you get the maximum amount of depreciation, but you still get like a nice new luxury car?
That's a great question. I think about this all the time because usually by the time it's gotten down to a price point where I would want to buy it, then reliability starts to become an issue, right? Wow. Like Bentleys, everybody wants a Bentley. That car's so cool, right?
Yeah.
Well, you're not spending $400. I mean, you lose $200,000 in an afternoon on that car, right? So then you think, okay, well, I'll get a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old one. Well, a 7-year-old Bentley's out of warranty. There's a lot of components in that car. They're expensive components. Then that's a dice roll. So it's like, I don't know. There is a right period in there, but it's probably different for each car and depends a little on the manufacturer's certified pre-owned warranty structure and your risk tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
Why are these cars so difficult to both maintain and fix? Like you would think that if you're spending a house on a car that it should be bulletproof,
but the
shouldn't have issues.
Totally. And the people who aren't in the market for cars like this always tell me that. Like a Rolls Royce Cullinan is $600,000, but it breaks all the time. It costs a lot to fix. That doesn't make sense. But you got to understand that ultimately reliability is not a major factor for decision making for a person who's buying this car. They will own this car for the original owner, who's the only person Bentley really cares about, right? They're going to own the car 3 or 4 years. They'll lease it or own the car for 3 or 4 years, and they will have the experience they want, which is a fast, powerful car with great technology and unbelievable, accoutrement, lighting throughout the car and all this beautiful stuff. Well, the third owner buys a car that's 12 years old, and those things that made it so appealing when it was new are now a liability. It's fast, while the powertrain is needlessly complicated and expensive to work on, and in some cases bespoke, right? The technology, which was so cool 10 years ago, now has aged and the screen doesn't work anymore, right? The cool lighting and all this other stuff, well, those things start to break and they're very expensive to fix. And in a lot of cases, the parts aren't available anymore. And that's kind of what happens. But Bentley doesn't care. By then, the car's out of their hands.
Do you think technology is going to make it more difficult to resell cars in the future because it gets dated? It's like telling someone to go and buy an original iPhone these days. It just functionally wouldn't work anymore without just replacing everything.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. They're doing all these over-the-air updates. One of the cool things about Tesla is the car is pretty simple, and so everything that needs to be updated is kind of comes through the screen, right? I mean, there's hardware too, but I actually think that potentially the opposite could happen, as opposed to you get into an old 90s car and there's just buttons everywhere and it's stuff that doesn't work or you don't care about. Modern cars, these over-the-air updates may kind of save the car from going down that road entirely. But there will be some technology that these, like your Model 3 doesn't have and can't, right? That wasn't built with. And so eventually you have to upgrade. But that's been the story of the car for 100 years,
Is there any reason why they don't sell like newer Miatas or newer exciting cars manually with manual transmission? I feel like there's such a demand for manual cars right now, and they sometimes will sell for a lot more than the automatic cars, like the older cars. Why don't they make any newer cars manual? Even like supercars, I feel like they just have paddles.
I think about it all the time. You could still get a Miata with a manual transmission, believe it or not, a brand new one. But it's a great question in a lot of ways, in part because the Ferraris on the used market and Porsches on the used market will sell for 2, 3, 4 times with a manual transmission what an automatic one will. And I have trouble understanding why, especially Ferrari and Lamborghini. Ferrari's a public company. Why don't they go out and try to maximize what is obviously a market? I mean, you have people paying $300,000 for 20-year-old Ferraris where the manual version is $300,000 and the automatic is $100,000. There's clearly a huge demand. Why don't they just go and make new? I've never understood that. I'm thinking of this as a business, like make a limited run and charge $1 million. People will pay it. Porsche has proven that because Porsche does still make limited run manual cars and they cost a fortune. They sell for crazy money. And Ferrari and Lamborghini could be doing that too. And so could probably some other brands who have abandoned it.
Would it be possible to switch the transmissions?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
if you were an automaker and you're like, I'm going to buy up all of these old automatic cars, flip it to manual and then make a profit?
Yeah, and in fact, Aston Martin has literally done that. Aston Martin,
Oh,
if
wow.
you have an auto, they have not themselves bought it, but if you have an automatic Aston Martin Vanquish, an original one from the early 2000s, you can send it to them. They will convert it to manual for you, and then they will ship it back to you.
How much does that cost?
50 grand. But there is a cottage industry has come up of automatic Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Audi R8s of people converting them to manual transmission. It's interesting the automakers themselves have not gotten involved. They could probably make some real money doing it.
What's the reason for not doing it? That you could argue.
I guess the answer is the automakers say it's faster with the dual clutch automatics that they all have now. And Ferrari is all about speed, Lamborghini is all about speed, so we would not want to go backwards in terms of technology. Porsche tried to make the same argument. Porsche almost killed the manual transmission, but it became clear that people were paying up for them, and so they have come out with special cars that still have them. That's the automaker's argument. The truth is, it just costs a lot. Like to develop a transmission that is ultimately, by the end of manual transmission production, was 10% of cars. But I would argue that you could really pass those costs on to the consumer, and in a lot of cases, they would pay. I don't think Ferrari could make a general run manual transmission car anymore, but a limited to 150 unit manual Ferrari, people would lose it. People would pay whatever they wanted for that. And you can't tell me if they charged $2 million and they made 200 cars that they couldn't justify the development cost of the transmission is not more than the cost of that they would make from that. There's no way.